Every strong home starts with a solid foundation, and so does every story. Building a house is a difficult task, but with determination, you can make it happen.
That's my girl. I'll be your friend at the very
I'm your host, Zandra Stennett, and on today's episode, we have with us Chantell and Ricardo, a couple who just started building their home, and their exciting story reflects exactly what this show is about. Welcome, Chantell and Ricardo, to the Build Up.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So, you were house hunting before you decided you wanted to build a house. You accidentally stumbled across a lot. You bought it thinking that that was the lot. But when you actually started building, you got the shock of a lifetime. What happened and how did that affect your building journey?
Well, as you said, we were house hunting for some time, and it's either we found the house, didn't like the community, or we found the community that we liked but did not like the house. So when we stumbled upon the lot and we decided, okay, let's give it a shot at building. The first thing, we thought it was a nice, clean, flat piece of land, and then to our surprise, when it was time for foundation, the first time they digged, it was nothing but stones, sand and stone.
So how did that affect the building process?
Well, it made it very difficult. It costed more. We had to learn about a new technique called building a foundation on a rock that we did not know existed. And we were a bit timid because we always knew that you had to dig foundation at least 3 feet down.
Yeah, that's correct. Just to add, as Chantell was saying earlier, we could not find a house that we really liked. I think it's better to construct your dream house. At the end of the day, that's one of the reasons why we would have stepped ahead and did some construction on a land per se. You know what they always say, as Chantell said, the wise man build a house on a rock. But we encountered a lot of problems. There were a lot of rocks there, and we had to do some major adjustment with the construction workers and so forth. That also put us in a bit of a predicament, but we are past that phase now and moving on.
You both are pretty early in the building phases, and we believe here on the build-up that every phase of the journey is important. You're at the foundation phase now, well, a little bit past it. However, there are things that need to happen before you even start digging the foundation. What were those things that you had to put in place before you reached the foundation, particularly in terms of sourcing funds? What did that look like?
Well, to get the land itself was a challenge because it took almost a year to fully acquire the land.
A year?
A year, due to lawyer lags, due to the different processes such as submission to the National Land Agency, transfer of title, all of that jazz. After waiting 1 long year, and we thought that we were full speed ahead, approval for sourcing with new changes to government policy with NHT and external financing, it was a bit of a turmoil. So we were back and forth for another 6 months.
In addition to the year,
wow, just to get approval. And then with all of that, we had to source a builder. Couldn't get a builder. The one that we had, we lost him. Yes, because of other projects. So we had said, okay, we're going to commit to him. And then we took so long, he had to move on. And then we took some time, and then we managed to get him back because he was able to finish a project that he was doing. And then he said, okay, he can now take on our project. So that was turmoil as well.
Wow. I can imagine that this whole process of building a house is very financially, don't want to say taxing, it requires a lot of finances. And that would also mean that you'd have to be on top of your budgeting game. What are some budgeting tips or hacks that you have learned starting out on this journey of building? Do you want to go ahead, Ricardo?
Yes. First and foremost, I'd like to say ensure that if you're sourcing funds from financial institutions, you compare the interest rate that you'll be able to get and also the processing fee that applies with that interest rate, right? Another tip is, I would say, in terms of construction, ensure that you have the communications to the various construction workers, let's say for material and so forth, that you keep aligned with what's going on and track your costs in very detailed, like for instance, let's say for example, what blocks would cost, what cement would cost and stuff like that, and ensure that you are getting the right fit for your money. For example, that's one of the reasons why we would have chosen HOLT'S, because we get the most discount. I don't want to say most discounts, but we get the best deals.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, I don't know if Chantell want to add to that.
Right. So shopping around is also important. So while we would love to get everything from HOLT'S, there are some things that might not be readily available or they just don't have it in stock at the moment. But always shop around. Capitalize on deals and sales. For example, HOLT'S had a Labor Day sale. So even things that we might not necessarily need now, but we need in the future, we know that we would have acquired it during the sale to capitalize on some stuff. So that would be one major budgeting tip that we could use. The other thing would be to assess the risk. So one of the proprietor, Mrs. Holt, she actually pulled us aside and gave us some tips in terms of when we came to her, we wanted to buy a large amount of material because we thought that buying in this large amount would give us one delivery cost and making it easier for us to just get one cost. But that's when she actually gave us some good tips as first time builders of homes, to say buy in small portion, reduce your risk of theft, all of those things. So that was advice, that was free advice that we actually took into consideration while she helped us along the way, guiding us on how to buy, when to buy, what questions to ask the construction workers as well, or contractor, which she was like questioning some of the things, and when we went back we got some clarity and she was like, you see. So that one of the good tips as well.
Okay, you mentioned a bit earlier that you took advantage of the Labor Day sale and bought some items that you didn't quite need now, but you would have needed in the future. What are some of those items that you got?
Well, for example, we're just laying blocks now. There's no need for toilets at this moment, but we bought them nonetheless so that we can have them for when that time comes, for when it's time to furnish the house.
Okay. I know that the process of building a house is something that doesn't only take financial resources, but it also takes time resources as well. And it's crucial that you manage the project well in terms of meeting deadlines for various tasks within the process, but also coordinating certain things like deliveries, speaking with workmen, etc. Has there been a time in the journey where you had a timeline or a plan as to what you would accomplish over a certain period of time, but then that changed or there was a pause?
Yes. So initially, when doing construction, you're normally told to put your capital injection in first.
Your capital injection?
Yes, your personal.
Can you explain to the viewers?
So capital injection is basically where you put your portion, which is not being financed, up to the forefront. So that's normally to break ground, clear the lot, all of that. So you normally put that in first, and then you get your financing from your external financial institution. Now, we went ahead and we had stipulated a timeline in which to do so. We went ahead, we did all of that, and then stumbled upon a roadblock in terms of additional approval. So when we put our investment in and thought that we were going to get a fast release of the funds, we were hit with a red light to say, okay, the bank had some requirements and we had to halt and paused. So we had a little bit of a...
That's like for about 2 weeks.
Like for about 2 to 3 weeks, right? 2 to 3 weeks, and then that gave us a little bit of a stress because now we have a site that's unprotected. We don't have any workmen on the site. And in essence, we started to say, okay, what we have done so far is pretty much exposed. And then we had to incur costs to get a watchman to watch a site where there's no activity going on. So that was a bit of a 2 weeks dilemma. And in construction, 2 weeks, 3 weeks is a long time. So
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that you're working with a builder, right? But you also are involved quite heavily in the process as well. Can you just explain to us the dynamic that you have? How do you stay involved in the project but not micromanage?
I would say it's a sensitive situation, but at the end of the day, once you have that detailed approach, you have contacts for each of the workmen, you would have aligned based on planning what you'll get done first, what you'll get done in the middle of the project, and at the end, the cost for what you'll also get done. Then I think that would be good for you to move along.
There is a lot of stress when it comes to building, and I'm sure you can attest to that. But in the midst of the stress, I'm sure that there are moments that really make you think, wow, this really is worth it. Can you share with us one of your proudest moments in this whole building journey so far?
When we saw the blocking up being done. When it's coming out of the ground and you see the walls going up, you're like, yes, it's happening.
Well, my proudest moment, I would say, is the foundation. There's a lot of things I didn't know about construction, and I had to go deep with the construction workers and ask a lot of questions. I get to understand now what's a step up is called, what's casting. You have to do all of that beforehand. So I'm basically learning.
Explain to us now, what's a step up and what's casting. Let's see if you're really learning. What's a step up?
So for the step up, right, it's basically where your land, it's not level. So basically you'll need to add more blocks to the lower part in order to come to a coordinated floor height per se, a leveling of floor height, right? Floor height that you have to get done.
And what about the casting?
So the casting. Chantell, you want to hear that?
Casting is just basically where we get to cement the foundation, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it looks like you really are learning.
Yes, we are.
So we give you the full mark for that one. Okay, so you might be at a part of your journey where persons might think it's just the beginning, it's baby steps, but I know that there are some people out there who haven't started the journey as yet, and you would obviously be farther than them. What is one thing that you would tell a person who is not yet in the foundation process, but they're looking to go there?
One thing, just start. If you just start,
just make it happen.
Meaning, if you don't get overwhelmed with how much the total cost will be, try to take it in stages. And if it is you have to do it piece by piece, just start something, and eventually you will claw away.
Right. And I would say ask for help, family members, friends, ask for advice, and use that going forward. And if you don't have the source of financing as yet, just ensure that you have your detailed plan layout first before you start the foundation, so that, as you were saying before, you'll be able to manage cost.
I think you touched on an important point about asking for help. But the reality is you can't ask for help from any and everybody. What is your process like, or what is your thinking towards choosing a person who you would take advice from in the building process?
I would say ensure it's somebody that's very close to you to take advice from. I know when we wanted to start the construction process, Chantell's brother, in terms of the construction worker that we had, he would have done some other construction for him, and he would have laid that person off to us, and we would have gone ahead and used them as well. And thus far, I would say that was some good advice.
Another thing too is talk to people who have been through it.
Talk to people who have
Right.
been through
It do makes no sense to take advice from somebody who has never been through the construction process, who has just bought a house. So talk to persons who went through that process so they can say, you know, this happened to me, so watch out for that. Or make sure that the pockets are being filled, or make sure that you look to make sure that the plumbing don't twist. Like, you know, they tell you what happened to them. So you learn from your closest friend's mistake, or another person to link if you have any questions is a person that draw your plan, because they know once it's passed by a parish council, you try to develop relationships where you can along the way in the sector, so you have those people to ask questions, professional questions too. So you're getting both persons who quote unquote layman who have been through it, and those who are actually professionals in the field, like your architect, and you build relationships along the way.
I must say that listening to your story so far has been quite fascinating, interesting, but I really admire how you guys have not allowed the setbacks to stop you. You have continued pushing forward. I commend you for that. But what is one thing that you would wish you knew before you started the process?
That there were stones on the lot. A joke.
That there was what?
That there was nothing but stones. But one thing that I wish that we didn't take for granted is don't take the things on surface level. Don't think that it's going to be smooth sailing. Anticipate and expect the hiccups, and mentally prepare yourself for anything to be thrown at you. And so try to have a safety net in the back as much as possible. And if you don't have a safety net, try not to get defeated in the process.
I would say, I know Chantell mentioned the stones and the lot, but I think that has ended up to be a plus for us based on what the construction workers would have said. You know, when you build your house on a stone, it's more sturdy and more safe rather than just the sand itself. But one thing I would say is to ensure that the financing, because as Chantell would have said at the commencement of this, is that the sourcing of funds, it took like 2 to 3 years just to get the land and then to get the source of funds. You know, that just ensure that you have a detailed planned layout, what you're going to do, benchmark with various financial institutions, and which one is the best for you. And do ask them how long they think the process will take, so that you have an idea of what to expect.
Solid advice. And I really hope the viewers are listening now, because they are dropping gems. But we're moving on into our second segment now, rapid fire questions and games. Are you guys ready?
Go ahead, ready.
So I'm going to ask you some questions, and as quickly as possible, you answer. Top 3 must-haves for a Jamaican home.
Fridge, stove, bathroom.
Man cave, bar, and kitchen.
Those are some very interesting answers. Yeah, very specific. Okay, so we're moving into a segment of plan or scam. I'm going to give some scenarios, and if you agree, you say plan. If you disagree, you say scam. Making the contractor buy all materials.
Scam.
Yeah, scam.
Why you say scam?
You don't know how your money being spent.
Right. And you want to be a part of it, you know? You want to be able to experience.
No contractor is going to sit down and visit 4 to 5 different hardwares just to save $2,000 per load. Because every $2,000 matters.
Right. Asking to see previous work before hiring a workman.
That's a plan.
Plan.
Taking photos or videos of each stage of the project.
Plan.
Definitely plan.
It's better to trust the workman than to ask questions.
Scam.
Hire one person to do everything.
Scam.
I say scam, but to do everything, you mean like to...
Every stage. So lay
No.
foundation.
Scam.
Why say scam though?
I would say I kind of like a mixture of stuff at times.
Right, for skill sets.
Right.
Jack of all trade, master of
The master,
none. Yeah.
right.
Building during rainy season?
You have to pause on that one there now because
We had experienced that.
we had experienced that.
We need a mini story time. We need a mini story time.
You have to careful with what it is, because when like you're doing decking, and when you reach that stage, the builder will always say when you get a shower of rain during that time, to set that concrete is a blessing. Versus when you just dig out the dirt out of the foundation and the rain pour, that wash back all the dirt in. So it depends.
So it can either be a plan or a scam,
Depending on
depending
where
on
you
what
are.
stage.
Yes.
Okay. So we're moving on to a segment of Would You Rather. Would you rather to live in the city or country?
I'd say it depends, but since I
Depends
can't
what
say it
city.
depends. Yeah, city.
Okay. Would you rather to finish your house in 1 year with maximum stress, or in 3 years with maximum peace, or as much peace as possible?
1 year maximum stress for me.
I'm going with the peace, and I like my peace. I like my peace. Yeah, no problem.
Would you rather have if you were to choose between the two, would you rather have the kitchen of your dreams or the bathroom of your dreams?
Kitchen of my dreams.
Yeah, I'd say kitchen.
Would you rather live without AC or fan, or without a water heater?
Definitely without the water heater.
Yeah, I can't live without fan or AC. Yeah, I can't live without.
Would you rather have a bigger house with limited yard space, or have a slightly smaller house with more yard space?
Bigger house, limited yard space.
Me too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I would pick the opposite, honestly.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, yard space is important, but remember we said we want the big kitchen.
Right.
And we want the living room. If anything, can run up and down in the living room. But
yeah. Big kitchen.
You're
big
more inside than
bathrooms.
outside, so.
Okay.
Right.
So we're on to our final game, which is green flag or red flag. I'm going to give some workman scenarios, and you're going to tell me whether that's a green flag or a red flag when choosing a workman. Electrician explains the wiring plan before starting and gives you options.
Green flag.
Green flag.
Carpenter tells you, yeah man, me can build it. Me no need no sketch.
Red flag.
Red flag.
Plumber shows you the part he's installing and gives you tips on how to maintain it.
Green
Flag. Bright green.
Bright green. Crew leaves site tidy at the end of each day.
Green flag.
It's a green flag, yeah.
Neighbors will tell us too.
The neighbors.
The neighbors will tell us if it's messy.
Oh. Mason using leftover cement from another job without asking.
Red flag.
Red flag.
Workman tells you what to expect this week and what materials you need.
Green flag. Because we're currently going through that as well. So green flag.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of another episode of The Build Up. Thank you so much, Chantell and Ricardo, for joining us. And I'm wishing you all the best on your building journey going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Build Up, brought to you by HOLT'S Hardware, the show for home builders and those aspiring to build their homes in the future. Remember to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at HOLT'S Hardware JA. And if you ever need pickups or deliveries, you can call us at 876-458-4949 or 876-548-3050.